What's up, YouTube? This is BlackMoonDragon with his good friend KvChaosGamer, and it's been quite a while, but we've both been really busy, so we thought we'd return and try to get back into the swing of things. Isn't that right, Chaos?
Yeah, I mean, wow. Kind of feels like it's been years since we've done one, even though it's not really been that long.
I think technically it's actually been months, but anyway, today, as you can tell...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Today, as you can tell, we're going to be discussing a conspiracy theory that is Polybius. So here's the gist of Polybius. Polybius is an urban legend about a rare arcade game I cannot read today. Polybius is an urban legend about a rare arcade game released in 1981. The game was created by a mysterious company called, forgive my German guys, Sinneslöschen, German for sense deletion, and was a puzzle shoot-'em-up somewhat like Tempest. It was only released in a few suburbs of Portland, Oregon. It was supposedly very popular, with people forming long lines to play it. However, players reported strange things about the game, such as hearing a woman crying and seeing grotesque faces out of the corner of their eyes. Players would also have nightmares, experience nausea, headaches, blackouts, or even develop amnesia. Some even committed suicide. Others stopped playing video games altogether, and at least one became an anti-video game activist. According to one owner of an arcade, men wearing black suits would often come to collect records from the game. They did not take any money, simply data on gameplay. Because of this, the leading theory is that it was some sort of government experiment using subliminal messages. The game remains in obscurity as, around 1 month after its release, all of the cabinets suddenly disappeared. One cabinet reappeared in an arcade 1998, but quickly disappeared again. While some have tried to recreate the game, no one has ever found the original ROM. And it says apparently the game can be found available for download at the German word website. I can't pronounce it. In the media, since the urban legend flowered into the phenomenon that it is now, there have been many alleged sightings of the Polybius game, as well as a few short videos about it. And excuse me, as seen in the only screenshot, it says that German word I can't pronounce. Thanks to Google Translate, it means sense delete. Possibly this could explain the amnesia. So, okay, so this, I'll admit, is quite a, it's kind of a tough nut for me personally to crack. Before I give my thoughts, would you like to chip in, Chaos?
Alright, well, let's see. I mean, it was during the 80s, and from what little I know, a lot of weird stuff. Experiments were conducted during the 80s, you know, because it was still the height of the Cold War, so both sides, you know, on the US and the Soviet Union, you know, they were both conducting a whole bunch of weird experiments, so, but now that I think about it, I have actually heard of this one. I just never really bothered with it, but I honestly, gosh, I mean, I honestly don't know if we can actually disprove this one or not, because in a weird way, I kind of actually believe our government would do something like this.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make a few points mentioned in the legend, like the symptoms. Okay, so is it possible for people to play a game and suddenly start hearing and seeing things? Is it possible for players to experience such severe symptoms as nightmares, nausea, headaches, blackouts, or amnesia? My answer to that sort of thing is, well, maybe to some extent, it is possible, I suppose. I mean, if you play games a long time, have you ever had that experience where you play a game for hours, and then even after you turn the game off, you can still hear the soundtrack playing or the guns firing in the game? Have you ever had that experience?
Well,
because I know I have. I mean,
some of the symptoms that are described, like nausea, no. Nightmares, I have gotten a nightmare from, gosh, this is probably going to sound real dumb, but I have gotten a nightmare from playing Call of Duty, like zombies. But that was only because that was when, it was at its height, and it came out, in World at War, and I was playing that pretty much non-stop.
Well, the thing about the symptoms is, the symptoms described are not entirely outlandish, per se. I mean, it is possible, I guess, to get nauseous if you're playing a game. I mean, look at those disclaimers they give you on video games that if you're prone to seizures, you should probably not play the game. I mean, look at that. We do know that some people do experience some weird...
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I mean, okay, let's be honest. Does anyone really pay attention to that? Because I honestly don't.
Well, most of us are not prone to seizures, so you and I don't have to worry about that. But maybe for the...
what I'm more trying to get at is, like, if there's a game that's coming out and it looks cool or it looks interesting, and if someone does kind of have a history of seizures, like, are some of them really gonna pay any attention to that? Because I think, if anything, more than likely, they're still gonna play the game.
Well, of course, there will be some cases like that. I mean, there's a lot of instances where we kind of just ignore the warning labels, but, they do have to put those there for legal reasons, and usually those legal reasons are there because it did happen to somebody. It's kind of like like when we see What?
Keyword, happened to somebody.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of people, just someone.
True. Okay, so... symptoms... Okay, so symptom-wise, it's kind of sketchy. I suppose it is possible, some of the stuff that they're describing. Now...
as far as headaches go, I've never really had that problem with playing video games, even though I am prone to having severe migraines. But I think the only way one would actually even get a headache from playing video game is if they have their volume cranked up all the way high.
Well...
Or if they're wearing headphones with the volume all the way up, then maybe, yeah.
There's another, there is something else that I'd like to, explore a bit. And that is, I did some research before coming on here, and there is something that kind of raises a red flag about this conspiracy theory for me. And that is, I cannot find anything on this aside from the urban legend itself. No news articles or anything like that. Nothing. I can't.
But, like, okay. if this is a government experience, are they really gonna want to let this stuff get out?
Well, I was going to bring that up too. I don't think they would, and I think it is possible that maybe the reason we don't have articles and stuff is because maybe the government did a good job covering it. But even then, how did the urban legend get out in the first place? I mean, it seems
maybe it wasn't. I mean, sorry for interrupting you, but
no, don't worry about it.
Maybe some of the people who played it maybe didn't have as much as an effect, or I don't know. Maybe there's some that would actually went on, you know, to kind of tell their own story.
That's also.
I mean, that could be one.
That is true. I suppose it is possible as well. I mean, I still kind of find it sketchy that I couldn't find anything on it aside from a few legends here and there. And, you know, I did something that I try to avoid doing with these debunk videos, and that is look at other people's debunk videos, because, you know, I like to do my own research and not be influenced by other people when I do this. But I was so desperate for information, I looked at other debunk videos, and even their videos was just discussing the legend. You know, they couldn't definitively prove or disprove this. And on one hand, I think that kind of both builds the credibility and hurts it simultaneously. On one hand, it does seem a little too convenient that I can't find anything, but on the other hand, it does kind of play into the narrative that it was kind of covered up, and that this whole thing was kept under wraps. So, I'm kind of at a loss. The only other thing I have is supposedly the game can be found at this link here, which I'm going to click on my phone. And
but what if that's just some fan-created website? Just like, we don't know if that's the actual game, and plus, if it is, I don't think they would
release it.
Yeah, I don't think they would just release it.
Yeah, that's another thing. You know, it may not even be a valid website in connection to the real game. Also, how did they... Another thing is, how would they be able to download the game at that website when supposedly people who tried to recreate the game couldn't find the original ROM? That's another thing. But another thing, like, back to the whole, you know, being unable to find media pertaining to this, I will say, you know how much, like, video games can be at the center of controversy. I mean, Mortal Kombat started the ESRB ratings, and people have felt like there's a conspiracy between the Grand Theft Auto series and the ESRB not rating them as harshly as they should and such, or people saying that video games are sexist or that they lead to violence. You get the point. There's a lot of controversy around video games, and the media tends to really jump all over that sort of stuff. And my thought is, you know, if there really was, you know, a legend going around that a video game was causing people to get sick and commit suicide and see things and all this other stuff, why is it that I can't find any media or anti-video game activists discussing it? I mean, it says right there in the story that one of the people who played the game gave up on video games and became an anti-video game advocate, and yet I can't find anything from anyone talking about it or telling us what an awful game this is. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you'd think that anti-video game advocates would jump on.
But also, one thing and I think we probably should have mentioned this, was that this was only did in Oregon. Part of Oregon. And that's another thing, it's like, why Oregon?
Yeah, that is.
Why wasn't something like... I mean, I can understand it doesn't probably have to be done in every state, but why not in, like, okay, let's do one here on the West Coast, like, and let's do one here on the East Coast, and maybe do one somewhere in the South, like maybe in Texas. You know, kind of, spread them out a little.
Yeah, that is another thing that I find kind of sketchy. And there were a number of fake sightings of the game that I can tell you about. Like, I think there were actual arcades that, like, as a popularity stunt, would make up a fake arcade game, put the word Polybius on it, and because of the urban legend, if people would get a glimpse at it, it would attract customers and stuff. But those were instances that were staged, to attract popularity, boost their customer participation and such. Now, that doesn't necessarily disprove the conspiracy theory, of course. I mean, for all we know, Polybius might have been real, and because legends do come from somewhere, and most legends, even if the overall legend itself is false, are based somewhat in truth, so I suppose it is possible that maybe there really was a Polybius, the legend got out, and other people capitalized on that to draw in customers. So I must say that this is probably the most difficult one we've covered so far, so I think before I give my final thoughts, do you have any last comments or final observations before we give our verdict here?
Well, one thing I do want to say is that I have a feeling, this is just a feeling, but I think what's probably happening is that this is probably going to later on maybe get more attention. There's going to be more people who are looking it up, and eventually it's probably going to kick off and become more popular. It's probably not going to be, Slenderman popular.
I don't know, dude. This legend made it all the way into a Simpsons episode, so...
But what I think will happen is that eventually this will get so popular that we might actually see either some indie developer or even a major third-party developer, but I honestly can't see that happening, actually attempt to do an accurate or somewhat accurate recreation of the game, and we'll probably see it on PC and maybe even consoles.
Well, this is an awfully old legend, but it is a possibility that maybe we're not the ones to give the final verdict here. And for that, before I give my verdict, I'd like to say to the people in our comment section, if you can find anything, any definitive proof, please be sure to comment down below, because we would love to find something that we could work with on this, and who knows, if something new comes up, maybe we could even revisit this. But for now, here's my verdict. This is perhaps one of the sketchiest, most difficult urban legends that we have ever done on our channel. The stuff described in the legend are not totally out there, not so hard to believe. The government does do experiments and stuff, So in other words, it is possible, but on the other hand, there are some red flags that do kind of have my attention, but they're not enough for me to definitively say that this is busted. So my final verdict is that it's plausible. It might be real, it might not be, but for once, I actually can't say for sure on this one. How about you? What's your verdict?
I'm going to say the same thing, that it is possible because, from the 80s, and, like you said, being at the height of the Cold War, a lot of weird stuff was done, like a lot of weird experiments, so, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if our government actually did do something like this. So yeah, I'm going to say it's possible.
Okay. Well, I suppose that kind of wraps up our thoughts for now, but before we sign off, I'd like to say that we've talked about it a little, and in addition to doing urban legends and creepypastas and the stuff we've been doing so far, we've also talked about the possibility of maybe doing